Yes. Guess what, guys? We got a pay-per-view coming up this Saturday. So what do we need, right? It's Tuesday night. Check. We got that. Smoking jacket. Check. Got that. Paloma. Check. We got the Paloma. What else do we need? Is Smooth Jimmy in the house? I think he might be. I think I'm going to be ready to co-host this show with me, you guys. It's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, just like we do always at this time on Tuesday nights. And guess what? It's not some Midland card with a really good main event and then 10 so-so fights. We got 15 fights on this card, and pretty damn near every one of them is a banger. We've got some legends of this sport performing on this particular card. We got some good young up-and-coming fighters. We've got 2 title fights. We've got so much work to do, you guys, and I have been busting my ass all week already to get ready for this show tonight because we've got 15 fights to break down from nose to toes, from east to west, from north to south, and we're going to give you all the angles. We're going to always finish like we always do with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. We broke our streak last week, you guys. It was heartbreaking. I even sent out a tweet about 5 minutes before Just the Tip saying I hadn't even decided who the ass shaving of the week was last week. And I mean, if I could have done any worse last week, I think it was almost mathematically impossible to do worse than pick Andre Philly last week. He got absolutely lit up in 30 seconds by Joe Anderson Brito. Shout out Joe Anderson Brito. I knew that dude was dangerous. I just really felt like Philly had seen just as many dangerous fighters as this guy and would be better everywhere. But that's MMA. And congratulations to everybody that cashed tickets on Joe Anderson Brito because they were fat tickets. But we're going to start a new streak this week. I am breaking some of my own rules this week. I'm going to be giving you something that you probably won't be expecting this week, but I'm going to trust my reads. That's what we got to do, man. I got to trust my reads, and I've done the read. I went balls deep into the particular fight that I chose for the ass shaving of the week, and I'm ready to give it to you guys after we break down all 15 of these fights and after we see who's hanging out on the show with us today. My guy Mushroom coming in saying my favorite uncle. Oi, what's up, Mushroom? My guy JSJ Jazz coming in here with a donation. Ring a ding ding, you guys supporting the show. My guy Jazz saying, what's up, Weezy? Loving the new content over on the MMA Engine channel. Can we get a greasy 4-leg parlay for this Saturday? Absolutely, we can, Jazz. Let's do it right now, as a matter of fact, because you donated to the show and because you've always been so generous in supporting the show, Jazz. Let's do it right now, you guys. I am going to give you Tracy Cortez by decision will be leg number 1 because we're going to make this greasy for you. We're going to go Lima Ivanov fight doesn't go to decision. We are going to go Cerrone Lauzon under 2.5. And we are going to go Ferguson Chandler over 1.5. We are making a play on the durability of Tony Ferguson here. So over 1.5 in Ferguson Chandler. Under 2.5 in Cerrone Lauzon. We're going to do the fight doesn't go to decision for Lima Ivanov. And we're going to go Tracy Cortez by decision. I don't know what that's going to pay, but I think it'll be pretty fat. And if you do that on FanDuel, you can get the FanDuel insurance where if one leg doesn't cash, you get a free bet in the amount up to $25 of the parlay that you put down. So check that one out. Jazz, thanks for supporting the show, brother. I really appreciate you. My guy Metalingus in the room. Hi, Weezy. Starting at 9 p.m. would be awesome. The reason I start at 10 is because of the Contender Series. The Contender Series is on Tuesday nights, you guys, and it's going to be returning pretty soon. So if I were to start at 9, I'd be competing with the Contender Series, and I would not ever ask you guys to not watch the Contender Series to watch your Uncle Weezy live, because I'll be watching it live. I love the Contender Series, one of my favorite shows of the year. So I do my show on Tuesday nights because it gives me enough time to look into all the fights on the card and, get enough of a look of each of the fighters on there and do enough tape study to give you guys a good show on Tuesday nights. But also, it's got to be after the Contender Series is over. So I always started doing it at 10 o'clock Central Time. By the way, do you know that hoy is the pronunciation for the word hoy in Spanish, which means today? Yes, I do, actually. I actually speak some Spanish, and hoy means today. And hoy means today we are going to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on UFC 274 because we're all watching Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. Appreciate you, Metalingus. Victor de Jesus in the room saying, "Oi, yes." I'm excited that it's this time of week again. My absolute favorite show on YouTube, hands down. Let's make a shit ton of money this weekend, gentlemen. Let's do it. Let's stack them high, Victor. By the way, I won't be able to participate much on the chat because I'm busy as fuck at work, but I'm here listening from beginning to end. As always, Victor, I really appreciate you, man. And here he is again, my guy Victor, ring a ding ding, supporting the show as he always has. I really appreciate you. Really appreciate you supporting the show and hanging out even when you're working hard, Victor. It means a lot, man. The kind words mean a lot. The support means a lot. I appreciate you, brother. And he says, your hard work is greatly appreciated, Weezy. Thanks again. Thank you. And Worth It saying, Weezy, love the prop templates and for how much MMA content you bless us with. Keep up the good work, and I'll be tuned in at Uncle Weezy. I really appreciate that, Worth It. That means a lot. Once again, man, those kind words really make it all worthwhile, and I really appreciate all you guys supporting. And speaking of supporting, my guy F. Carrillo in here in the room, always supporting, always watching, saying, Unc, I got to make a 2-hour drive tomorrow morning for a project meeting in South Central Texas for 9 a.m. My guy F. Carrillo is always working hard, always grinding out there. And Jesus loves you for that, man. And I appreciate you too. Saying, I'm going to miss you live, brother, but going to sow my seed for the passion and endless hours of tape watching and number crunching with your off the charts Excel skills. Much love to F. Carrillo. And right here, ring a ding ding, you guys, supporting the show once again. My guy F. Carrillo saying Uncle Weezy is a man who has great distinguishable abilities, is admirable in deeds, and has noble qualities. Much love, brother, and Jesus loves you very much. And I love you, F. Carrillo. Thank you so much, my man, for supporting the show, brother. It means so much. And we got Lou Betya, the head of engineering at MMA Engine, saying average age of anyone on the main card, 35.7 years old. I think that might even be correct because it's crazy how this is definitely a card full of veterans on the main card here. How they trying to make them fight so late at night? Dana should have Postum available for them. I haven't seen anyone eat Postum since C. Montgomery Burns. Brilliant stuff from my guy Lou Betya. Prince of Mischief saying, Oi, I've set my reminder and everything just to watch this. Let's go, Prince of Mischief. And my guy AJ DeVito over at MMA Expert saying the legend. I appreciate you, AJ. I was just on AJ's show talking about the Esparza Namajunas fight and a couple other fights just about a half an hour ago. So go check out AJ if you haven't already subscribed to the MMA Experts YouTube channel. They do fantastic work, and my man AJ grinds it out every bit as hard as I do, man. The guy's doing content damn near every day of the week. Great takes on MMA over there from my man AJ. Check him out if you haven't already. We got my guy Equity Sports Analytics saying, Weezy, I confess I bet on Fat Collier. The orderlies took me away and confiscated my profits. Then for good measure, I had Vera round 3, 4, 5. It's a tough game we play, man. It's a tough game we play. And I didn't, one of the, I'd like to say that I had this crystal ball and that I was just, I'm just the best ever. And like the reason that I stayed away from Fat Collier versus Arlovsky's because I knew there would be a robbery. But what I did kind of know is that it was going to be a close fight because all Arlovsky fights at this point are close. You have to overpay by a sick amount to bet the fight goes to decision. And Arlovsky tends to get the decision nod when he doesn't necessarily deserve it. And I didn't even watch the fight. I was over at a friend's place and wasn't able to watch the fights. But I heard most people had a Collier 30-27. God damn it, that's a rough game we play, and to lose because of people like Salem Diamato's terrible judging, it just makes it so much harder to be profitable. But that's the game we play. That's why we got to put in the extra work, because we're not. It's not just the fighters that got to do the job. The judges got to do their job. The refs got to do their job. The coaches got to do their job, and the judges are the hardest part of it. Jeremiah Nicola saying, let me get some food and sit down for this one. Excited to get into it. Appreciate you, Jeremiah. F. Carrillo saying, bring and start that ass shaving of the week streak, Unc. Oi, we got to start it back up this week, and I got a plan for you guys. Mushroom saying, my grandfather used to watch some of these fighters when he was a kid. Brandon saying, let's go. Been watching Ozark. This shit is wild. Yeah, man, Ozark is something else, dude. I just started watching that last season. Chris, for the love MMA, saying, oi, much respect, Unc, and oi, MMA fam. Good to see you in here, Chris. Thanks for coming out, man. Addicted to Combat saying, haven't caught a live one in a while, but I wouldn't miss this pay-per-view card. Oi, for sure. Addicted to Combat. Thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate you, brother. This is such a great card. Even better when Uncle Weezy breaks him down. Lou Bet saying, give us a 4-minute fight break for the Derby. I hope Dana gives us a 4-minute fight break. He might, man. Unc, what's good, my guy? XBL on Twitch. Let's cash it, dude. Let's go. War Dog saying, oi, gonna have to listen to this full thing tomorrow, but I'm here for a few minutes tonight. Thanks for hanging out, War Dog. Hype MMA saying cheers. We got Rojan Yi saying, oi. We got Jarno Portilla. What a fight card. What's up, Jarno? Good to see you. Ross McKenzie with an oi. Brandon saying, let's go. Tony by sub. Mushroom saying, live resin vape cartridges. Check. Yes, there we go, man. Brandon saying, Rose ITD. M.A. Liren saying, oi, it's been a while, but since I could catch this live, but I never miss it. Let's get them flapjacks piles. Let's get it, M.A. Liren. Let's go. Brandon saying, that was hilarious, Weezy. I had the Brito KO. Yeah, man. Good call there, Brandon. Nice work, man. Cuban Assassin saying, Weezy Wheeze. Let's get that cheddar. If they let Keith Peterson ref that Cowboy versus Lauzon or Shogun versus OSP, there might be a death in the octagon. That's actually a very good point, man. I don't think they should let Keith Peterson near any senior fights because he lets them go on way too long. And these guys are UFC seniors because, this is not a sport that people grow old doing unless you're a heavyweight. And yeah, we got some older fellas on this main card in particular. Andy saying, oi, let's go, Uncle Weezy. I'm ready to stack them real high this week. So am I, man. And then Jeremiah hit the Brito KO plus 1,200. Well done, Jeremiah. Nicola, ring-a-ding-ding. That's how you cash a fat prop. Jeffrey Korengold saying, oi. Brandon 9801 saying, that's a good one, Weezy. We got Prince of Mischief to saying, so grateful to have found you. You got the brain and the wit. Here's your crown. I'm happy you bet on yourself. I appreciate that, man. That means a lot, dude. And yeah, I had to bet on myself because nobody else would take a chance on me. And sometimes, you got to take a chance on yourself. So that's what I did. And that's what brings me here to you guys, man. So I appreciate each and every one of you that gives me your eyes and your ears and watches my content, because it allows me to follow, my passions and my dreams. And I wouldn't have been doing that sitting in some cubicle at some corporation. So thank all of you guys for watching. It really means a lot. Jeremiah saying, love that oi definition. Yeah, man, that's right. Hammering Hog said, keep betting on yourself, you fucking king. I appreciate you, Hammering Hog. That means a lot, man. Just my 2 cents says, burning the midnight oil with Weezy. We're going to be up late tonight. We got a lot of fights to break down. Kim V saying, new here. Let's cash some tickets. Kim, thank you for hanging out with us. And thanks for stopping in on Just the Tip. Appreciate you having you here. Let's stack them like flapjacks this weekend. Nick Sisson saying, Uncle Weezy, deserve all that praise and recognition. I appreciate that, Nick. That means a lot, man. David Milk saying, oi, this is the card I've been waiting for. Saturday going to be fun. It is the best card we have had in at least a month. I'm fired up for this one. Just my 2 cents. Got my coffee and my Alien OG. Let's go, man. That Alien OG will keep you up. It's nice and energetic, man. So good call on that. Just my 2 cents. And then my guy, Lo Tuisetti Ortega, ring a ding ding with the donation saying, what's up, Weezy? Love you and the show, brother. I really appreciate you. I appreciate the donation to the show, my man. It means so much. We got MMA experts saying, Weezy, what's up, man? We got F. Carrillo saying, Unc, I'm signing off and listening on my early morning ride. We will talk to you tomorrow morning, F. Carrillo, and break down all 15 of these fights for you, brother. Thank you for the donation. Thanks for stopping in, man. It means a lot. David Nettles saying, Uncle Weezy blasting out the MMA wagering wisdom like always. Much respect, my friend. Hit that like button, everybody. Yeah, please do. Aiden Alba saying, Diamato on the Vegas payroll. He's on somebody's payroll, and it's not mine. Hammer and Hog saying, I'm looking for our DGen parlay. You literally cash over 50. It's insane. Yeah, man, dude, it's let's keep going, man. I gave you that DGen parlay at the beginning of the show for my guy Jazz. Let's work with that one for a DGen 4-legger. That'll be around 10-1. Ross McKenzie with the super sticker. Much appreciated, man. Ring a ding ding, supporting the show. Much love to you, Ross McKenzie. I really appreciate the support. Brandon saying, I hope I don't get Keith Peterson for my fight doesn't go to decision. I always scream obscenities when I see Keith Peterson and I have a fight doesn't go ticket. Paul Brassfield saying, Oi, big uncle. Almost cash on a nice parlay, but Font killed it. Had Brito on it too. Just had a feeling, oh man, that would have been a fat one. I cashed my grizzled old bastard parlay. Elkins Arlovsky plus 165. Nice work, dude. Hammer and Hog saying 50%. Yeah, that's right. 50% is good on those DGen parlays. And then Stellar 703 saying, what up, Weezy? What's up, Stellar? Let's see what's up with my guy Smooth Jimmy Apollo, you guys. And let's see if he's ready to start breaking down all 15 of these fights. And I am going to share that screen. Click that up and let's see if we can get him out of makeup and on the stage. And there we go. The consummate professional, my mentor, the guy who got me started, Smooth Jimmy Apollo, looking good, looking smooth. And he is ready to bring you these stats. And we are going to talk about the very first fight of the night and start like we always do with the tail of the tape. It's going to be, it's not Tracy Cortez versus Gatto. It is going to be Journey Newsome versus Fernie Garcia. So Fernie Garcia, 3 years younger, 2 inches taller. It's going to be Journey with 2 more professional fights, but Fernie's got about 12 more minutes in the pro cage. The length of pro career, very similar. Journey, 3 UFC level fights. Fernie only 1. And we see a 70% finish rate for Journey in 10 wins and a 40% finish rate for Fernie in 10 wins. And Journey's been finished in 2 of his 3 losses. Fernie Garcia never been finished. So we don't have much in the way of stats here, you guys. But what we've got on the Fernie Garcia side is a boxer wrestler. And what we have in the Journey Newsome side is really more of a karate style, taekwondo style striker mixed with a Brazilian jiu-jitsu player. So, I kind of like the combination of boxing and wrestling just a little bit more. Fernie Garcia is not going to be finishing fights at this level. I feel that was a real freak thing of him finishing that fight against Weems and the Contender Series. But Weems came in heavy. He missed weight by like 3 pounds. So he might have had an issue. He just didn't look like he was UFC level at all. So Fernie Garcia, prior to that fight, is a guy who wins minutes. He gets takedowns, he boxes, he walks forward, he's heavy on that lead leg, and he throws in combination. And Journey Newsome is really more of a knockout artist, one punch type of guy, a lot of flashy strikes, and he is good in the grappling too. So I think that this is going to be a very close fight. There's really not much of an experience advantage here for either fighter. Both of these guys are around the same age, the same size, same reach. So in terms of the level of competition, Journey Newsome's been in there with Ricardo Ramos. That's the best fighter either one of these guys has fought. Journey Newsome 1-2 in the UFC. He's got a knockout win over Domingo Pilardi, and then he lost via knockout versus Randy Costa, and he lost a unanimous decision to Ricardo Ramos. Fernie Garcia, though, if Journey Newsome is not able to stop takedowns, and we see that Journey's been taken down every time that somebody's shot against him in the UFC, and he's given up 17% control time while only getting 1.53%. I'm going to say that Fernie Garcia is going to be able to win minutes in this fight and do enough to get a win on the judges' scorecards. I think that the fight goes to decision for this particular fight. Let's just see what the prop template says about it, you guys. So fight goes to decision at -138. That's 58% implied probability, and fights go to decision about 46% of the time here in this division. So yeah, that's about 7.41% worse than the implied probability of the line. We're getting about 5.4% edge here over the implied probability because 13 of these guys' 24 fights have finished inside the distance. Yeah, I guess I could say that the fight goes to decision, but it's not. The prop template isn't screaming one way or another here. Journey Newsome does have a lot of fights that have finished inside the distance. 7 of 10 in the wins, 2 of 3 in the losses, 9 of 13 total. So 70%. That's pretty dangerous for the 135-pound division. So, yeah, I'm not going to say I like the time props one way or another here, but I do think that if you're betting on the Garcia side, you guys bet him to win by decision. He's not finishing Journey Newsome. And if you like Newsome, just bet the money line because you're already getting plus money. I'm going to pick Fernie Garcia to win this fight by decision via wrestling and winning minutes on the ground, while I think on the feet it's going to be very close. So the pick's going to be Fernie Garcia by decision, you guys. Next fight, Ariane Carnelossi against Loopy Godinez. So this is an interesting one. We got a pretty wide line here, you guys. It's going to be Godinez, who's a year younger, but they're the same height and they have the same reach. We got Loopy out of Titan MMA and Inside Muay Thai for Ariane Carnelossi. Carnelossi, 7 more pro fights, but it's actually Loopy who's got a lot more minutes in the cage. And that's because Carnelossi's average fight time is less than 5 minutes, while for Loopy, it's 12.39. But, Ariane's been doing this longer, about 4 years longer than Loopy has. And in the UFC, it's Loopy who's got 1 more fight and 18 more minutes in the UFC cage. So the experience numbers are actually pretty close here because even though Carnelossi has more fights, it's Godinez who has more cage time, 1 more UFC fight, and about 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. Size stats are very similar. What we do see here is that Ariane Carnelossi, a 78% finish rate in her 14 wins. So that would be 11 wins inside the distance out of 14. And when you look at Loopy standing next to Ariane, you can pick out who the finisher is going to be. Ariane Carnelossi looks like she's been pulling a plow. She looks like, she's yoked. She's absolutely yoked. Back knee for days, it looks like at one point in her career, maybe she might have been taking some kind of really good supplements or something of that nature. But at this point, she's been in the USADA testing pool. We got to assume that she's clean. She's been passing all of her drug tests. She's just a really strong girl. Loopy, not much of a finisher, but definitely a really good minute winner. And she's finished 2 of her 7 wins, but won 5 via decision. So, maybe Loopy might be the better minute winner here just because she's won more fights by decision than Ariane has. But when we look at the striking numbers here, we see Ariane's getting outlanded by 1.3 significant strikes per minute, but she throws about the same amount of volume, 40.5% striking accuracy, 47.5% striking defense. Ariane's never landed a knockdown, and she's never been knocked down. Same thing with Loopy, never landed a knockdown, never been knocked down, landing about as many significant strikes per minute as she absorbs. Her opponents are throwing more significant strikes per minute, but it's Loopy's fights that are taking place in control time positions a lot more. We see about 65% of Loopy's fights of 50 minutes in the cage have taken place in control time positions for or against. And for Ariane Carnelossi, it's about 45%. Ariane not showing good takedown defense. She's been taken down 3 times in 4 attempts, but she's only given up 12% control time. So she's given up less than 4 minutes of control time on those 3 takedowns. So she does have a good get-up game, and she has swept her opponents a couple of times. Loopy has done a good job, though. 15 of 42 on her takedown attempts. She's attempting more than 10 takedowns per fight. She's out-controlling her opponents 46% to 16%, and she's out-takedown attempting her opponents by more than a 5-to-1 ratio. So, it's going to be Loopy who's probably going to the wrestling a little more often here, but Ariane is very good on the ground. She can absolutely swim down there, and when she does get put on her back, she's working for submissions and working to get back up. So she's very active. Both of these ladies have got good conditioning. It's going to be Loopy who's pushing that pace a little bit more, but when you look at Ariane and you look at how bricked up she is, it's surprising the pace that she can push for a full 15 minutes. She's got a ton of power. She throws a ton of volume, but she can do it for a full 15 minutes. I think that this is a very close fight, you guys. I think that Ariane Carnelossi is just as good everywhere as Loopy Godinez, with one exception, and that's the wrestling. So I think Loopy's going to be able to win enough minutes on the ground in order to grind out a greasy decision here. If you're on that Godinez side, I don't think she's finishing Ariane Carnelossi. Carnelossi has been finished in both of her losses, but one of them was due to a cut. If it weren't for the cut, that fight doesn't get stopped. And then the other one, I mean, it was so long ago that I don't even know who it was against. So I think Loopy Godinez by decision is probably the most likely outcome here. But I think that this fight is going to go to the decision, and I think it's going to be very, very close. And because of that, I'm not recommending that people pay up for Loopy Godinez right now, because she is sitting around minus 184 on Bet Online. We can get her as good as minus 170, minus 165 on 5 dimes. Let me just refresh the page here. So we got the most. Oh shit! I'm supposed to have my banners up for you guys. So we missed the first fight, which was Fernie Garcia versus Journey Newsome. Fernie was minus 150, Journey plus 130. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus 115 for that one. Carnelossi sitting at plus 159, Loopy minus 184, and the fight doesn't go to decision here, plus 190. So I think that this fight does go the full 3 rounds. I think the over 2.5 is a decent parlay piece, actually. The over 2.5 for this particular fight is minus 275. And if we were to look at the prop template for this one, that minus 275 for over 2.5 is priced just about right in terms of the implied probability of the line. And we do see that 4 of these ladies' 7 fights have finished inside the distance, but one of them was due to a cut, and the other 2 were submission wins by Carnelossi against exhausted opponents with really bad grappling games. That is definitely not Loopy Godinez. So I do see this fight going the distance, and the over 2.5 could be a decent parlay piece this week. But let's move on to the next fight here, as we've got CJ Vergara squaring up against Kleydson Rodrigues. Rodrigues is 4 years younger. These guys are the same height, and CJ Vergara has got a 1-inch reach advantage. Both of these guys are orthodox fighters. We got CJ fighting out of Pete Spratt Muay Thai, and Kleydson out of Team Nogueira in Brazil. Vergara is going to have a 5-fight advantage over Rodrigues here as a pro. He's got about 60 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's got about 2.5 more years as a pro, does Vergara. So a nice little experience advantage, despite the fact Rodrigues is younger here. And then he's got 1 more UFC level fight than Kleydson, and about a minute more of cage time. When we look at the finish rates for these guys, 72% for Kleydson in 7 wins, and 67% for Vergara in 9 wins. These guys are mostly knockout artists, but Kleydson does have 2 wins by submission. In these guys' 4 combined losses, only 1 of them has been inside the distance. Not much in the way of striking numbers here, but we can see that Kleydson landing 6.07 and absorbing 1.4 in his UFC debut against Santo Curatolo. The kid really showed out. He looked the part. He looked like one of these Contender Series guys that we're going to be seeing for a long time, that they're going to probably ease into things, give him handleable fights off the bat, because he is only 26 years old, and because it does look like this kid's got a very high ceiling in terms of how much he can show out at the UFC level in this weight class. Everything that I like from Klaydson's striking looked fantastic. There was variety there. He was throwing with power. He was walking forward. He was moving well. And and just hitting hard. And CJ Vergara, he looks like a very, very, very tough dude. Extremely tough. This guy can he can scrap, and he's definitely not afraid to walk forward as well. And he's got a very good chin. He's gonna need that here against Kleydson. We have not seen either of these guys offensively grapple thus far. CJ stopped 7 of 8 takedown attempts against him, and Kleydson stopped 2 of 6 takedown attempts against him. And even though he was taken down twice, he was still controlled for less than 3% of the fight. So he got back up immediately when he was taken down. So let's just kind of take a look at these guys and who they've fought so that we can get a good look at the strength of schedule here. So CJ Vergara, like we said, he's more experienced. And wins over Bruno Correa, good win. Jacob the Animal Silva, good win. Sean Solis, Emerson Garcia, 2-5. Ramiro Castillo, 4-2. A loss to a 2-0 Devin Miller in LFA was back in 2018. A draw against Emerson Garcia, 1-3 in Fury FC back in 2016. And then a win over Jose Soto Jr. in RFA, a loss to Jonathan the Dragon Martinez. So he's got losses to, Martinez, who's a UFC fighter, to Devin Miller, who I don't know who Devin Miller is. Let's see what his current record is. Devin Miller's 5-3. So he lost to Devin Miller, and he's got a draw to this Emerson Garcia, who's 2-6. But that was a long time ago. Since then, some good wins here over Bruno Correa, Jacob Silva, Sean Solis, and then the loss to Odie Osborne. Now, Kleydson got the win over Curatolo on the Contender Series, and then he's on the Brazilian regional scene here in Jungle Fight and Lux Combat, beating Eduardo Henrique da Silva 5-0, Antonio da Silva 4-2, Romario Garcia 2-3, Bruno Mesquita 6-2, Dylan Nascimento 0-5, a loss to Ricardo Molonio, who's 20-6. So, the bad boy, a pretty good loss here, a guy with 26 pro fights at this point. So Kleydson, has some decent regional scene wins as well, but it's going to be CJ who's got the more experience, a little more UFC experience. I don't know that we're going to see much grappling out of either one of these guys, to be honest with you. And I just think it's going to come down to the striking, and I think Kleydson is just much better there. I see why this line is so wide, but at -300, I don't think Vergara is getting finished. This guy is very, very tough. He's only been finished once, and I believe it was a submission. It was a submission. So the guy's never been knocked out. He's going to walk forward. He's incredibly tough, and he's got a lot of heart. So I'm going to say Kleydson Rodrigues wins this one by decision, you guys. But I think that he's going to show out here and really take the next step and kind of open some eyes on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to seeing Kleydson Rodrigues fight. Next fight. This is one I kind of went deep into. We got Melissa Gatto at +130, squaring off against Tracy Cortez at -150. We got the fight doesn't go to decision at +150 in this fight. We see that Melissa Gatto is 3 years younger. She is the same height as Tracy Cortez and will have a 4-inch reach advantage. Both of these ladies have 10 professional fights. It's Tracy Cortez with 36 more minutes in the cage and Melissa Gatto with 6 months more as a pro. But it's Tracy who's got 40 more minutes in the UFC cage and 2 more UFC level fights. Melissa Gatto, the better finisher here. She's finished 6 of her 8 pro wins inside the distance, while Tracy Cortez has only finished 2 of her 9 wins inside the distance. Tracy's been submitted in her only loss. I believe it was her first professional fight. And Melissa Gatto's never lost, but she's been in 2 draws. So 6 of her 10 fights have been finishes. 4 of them have went to decision. When we look at the striking numbers, Tracy Cortez, really nice ratio here, as well as Melissa Gatto has a really nice ratio. 1.45 more significant strikes landed per minute than absorbed for Tracy, and she throws about 1 more significant strike attempt per minute. 55% striking accuracy is solid. She's never landed a knockdown, and she's showing 59.5% striking defense, and she's been knocked down once in 144 significant strikes absorbed in 4 fights, absorbing 0.25 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Melissa Gatto is landing 4.19 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 2.75. A little more accurate, one more knockdown than Tracy Cortez, and she's never been knocked down. So Tracy's striking is serviceable, and Melissa Gatto's is as well. Melissa won her last fight against Sijara Eubanks with her striking, landing a great body kick on Sijara Eubanks. I believe that was in the third round, and finishing her with that. Sijara was exhausted, and when that body kick landed, it was over immediately. So this fight is going to be contested closely on the feet, I believe. Melissa definitely took some steps forward with her striking. Pre 2.5, 3 year layoff for Melissa Gatto, her striking looked absolutely awful. It looked, not even serviceable for a women's division. But, that time off, she clearly worked very hard on her striking, and it's taken the next step. It looked good against Leonardo. It looked good against Sijara Eubanks. And I expect it to look good against Tracy Cortez. But Tracy has always had serviceable striking, and I'm sure she's still making improvements to it. So I think the striking is actually going to be very close in this particular fight. It's the grappling that's going to make the difference. Tracy Cortez has attempted 26 takedowns in 4 fights, so that's 6.5 takedown attempts per fight. She's getting them at just under a 50% clip. She's averaging 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. This control time number is wrong. It's showing 42% control time, but Tracy Cortez controlled Agapova in her Contender Series fight for more than half the fight, but we're not even showing those numbers. So we could see a control time number here for Cortez that actually approaches maybe 60% of the UFC cage time that she has so far here, because of the control time statistic wasn't kept in her Contender Series debut. She's doing a superb job of getting the fight to the cage and then getting the fight to the ground and winning all kinds of minutes on the ground. She's got 87.5% takedown defense. She scrambles very well. Her cage wrestling is excellent. Her cage control is excellent. And her freestyle wrestling is about as good as it gets in the division right now, to be honest with you. Melissa Gatto is excellent and very aggressive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from her back. So when you take her down, you really need to mind your P's and Q's down there, because she's very aggressive. She submitted Carol Hossa from her back. We see that she has 4 career wins by submission, and she did okay underneath Sijara Eubanks. Sijara took her down in the first round and the second round of their fight, and won quite a few minutes on top, but Sijara had a very tough weight cut, and she gassed. That's something that we haven't seen Tracy Cortez do. If Tracy Cortez didn't have good conditioning, I would be very worried about her in this spot, because you're not going to get Melissa Gatto out of there on the ground. She's too aggressive from her back, and it's going to be difficult to just take this girl down and win a lot of minutes on the ground. You're going to need to be very defensively responsible while you're on top of her. However, Tracy Cortez's wrestling and Melissa Gatto's wrestling are not on the same plane. They're not even close. They're not in the same stratosphere. Cortez has been practicing mixed martial arts since the age of 14 and grew up friends with the Cejudos. She's been in a wrestling room with Henry Cejudo and Angel Cejudo since her teenage years. This is not going to be close in the wrestling. If this fight stays standing, it's because Tracy wants it to stay standing. If it goes to the ground, it's because Tracy wants it there. And there's not a damn thing that Melissa Gatto can do about it. The question is, when it goes to the ground, when Tracy wants to take it there, is Tracy going to be able to stay safe? I think so. I think she is. I mean, her grappling is very, very good. She's, been able to swim on the ground with, Stephanie Egger, who is an excellent grappler, and also with Aaron Blanchfield. Vanessa Mello is a black belt. Agapova, Justine Keesh just got a big win over Alima Leigh McFarlane. So, a grappler of Alima Leigh McFarlane's level was not enough to beat Justine Keesh. And a lot of people are like, oh, Tracy Cortez barely beat Justine Keesh. Well, yeah, but Justine Keesh is better than everyone thinks that she is, and she's actually just continuing to improve here. So these wins, Justine Keesh Stephanie Egger up at 135. Vanessa Mello up at 135. Maria Agapova at 125. Blanchfield at 125. I mean, I don't know how you get wins that age any better than that. And then we see the Carol Hosso win before the layoff for Gatto is excellent. This Sajara Eubanks is definitely a signature win here. So we've got two young ladies on their way up, you know. And when we look at the UFC strength of schedule stats, very close, but they lean Gatto. So it's a tough fight, but Tracy Cortez's wrestling is on a different level than Gatto's. I think that this fight, if that Tracy can win minutes on the feet if she wants to, and I think that she can win minutes on the ground. I think that she can stay safe. She dominated Stephanie Egger down there. She dominated Vanessa Mello down there. And she's winning striking exchanges with Justine Kish and Maria Agapova. So, but Agapova did land some nice shots on Tracy. And the last thing I want to mention about Tracy is that this young lady has a chin. She's got a brick for a head. She's meant to do this. She's very, very good. I'm picking Tracy Cortez to win this fight by decision, you guys. Most importantly, Tracy Cortez has never finished any of her UFC wins. All 4 wins by decision. And in her 9 pro wins, only 2 of them were inside the distance. And here's the opponents that she beat inside the distance. So it was Cortez. Now, she lost to Sherry Muraski back in 2017 via guillotine choke. And then she beat Monica Medina in V3 fights via rear naked choke, and Karen Cedillo 1-0. So once she moved up the ladder, we're not seeing her submit anyone. And, you know, but she's been able to hang on the ground with Erin Blanchfield and Stephanie Egger. So I think she's going to be able to hang on the ground and stay safe against Gatto here. And if she does that, I think she cruises to a decision, and at plus money, I think that that's a great bet. So I'm going to be calling Tracy Cortez here, you guys, by decision. The next fight is going to be Andre Fialho versus Cameron Van Camp. And let me see here. Why is this showing up so strange here? Sorry, guys. My StreamYard is a little bit messed up, and I can't see it on my screen. Anyway, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Cortez stayed composed in an armbar for almost a full round. And that was against Blanchfield. Yes. Tracy has a big ass and head. She has got both. There's no question. Yeah, mismatch Fialho KO, that for sure. Yeah, and that Blanchfield win is aging like a fine Pinot Noir, and it is, you know. Hammering Hog saying Tracy minute winner, but Gatto was solid, showing tremendous improvement in her striking by being the first person to finish Sarge, 3rd round body kick. Yep. And Papa Chuck here in the room saying, shit, I almost forgot about Just the Tip. Glad to make it, Unc. It's good to have you in here, my man. Thank you for coming in. Let me refresh this page here. Reload it. Okay, guys, sorry. I couldn't see myself on the screen, and it was just really messing me up. So I'm back. All right, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and we'll get the stats back up here and get back to work. Next fight, like I said, you guys, is going to be Fialho versus Van Camp. And this one is an interesting one. I'm not sure why this got made. It really doesn't make any sense. But here we are. Andre Fialho minus 350, Cameron Van Camp plus 285. We don't even have a fight, doesn't go to decision line yet. I'm going to refresh my page and see if anyone stepped up and made a market there, and they have not. Okay, so this one is striker versus grappler. It's about as easy as it gets in terms of Van Camp is a guy who wins by submission, and Fialho is a guy who's trying to punt your head into the upper deck in the first round. It's going to be Fialho a year younger, Cameron Van Camp a year or an inch taller. Let's see if these guys have updated Van Camp's reach yet, because it's not on my spreadsheet, which means it wasn't in here yet. And Van Camp reach is not there. So we're just going to have to guess. Now, it's Fialho, who's got a little bit of an experience deficit here, as Van Camp has 2 more pro fights and 50 more minutes in the cage and about 3 more months as a pro. But Fialho, 2 more fights at the UFC level, and he's just frankly been fighting the much better brand of competition here. And why the fuck is it doing this? Sorry, you guys. There we go. Yeah, so it's an experience advantage, well, really for nobody here. It's very close. I mean, Van Camp, a couple more fights, 50 more minutes, but it's Fialho who's been fighting the better brand of competition and has got more UFC level experience. Both of these guys have finished 87% of their 15 wins inside the distance. So 26 out of these guys' 30 combined wins are inside the distance. And we've got Fialho, who has been knocked out in 2 of his 4 losses, and Van Camp, who's been finished in 2 of his 5 losses. So 4 of 9 combined losses coming inside the distance for these 2 guys. Fialho landing 3.92 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 6.67, 40% striking accuracy. He's got 1 knockdown, and he's never been knocked down, showing 50% striking defense. So look, you guys, this is can Van Camp take down Fialho, get on his back? Because if he can, and if he can do that 2 out of 3 rounds, he can win this fight. Fialho's got okay conditioning. It's been getting better, but he walks forward, he pressures, and he throws absolute hammers. So I think he knows that Van Camp's going to be trying to take him down. I think if Van Camp takes a sloppy shot, he might be eating a knee here or an uppercut. I don't know why they made this fight. We've got like 2 cards. There's Holm versus Vieira coming up in 2 weeks. And this damn fight could have been on, the main card of that one, because it's going to be an absolute shit show. Eric Anders versus Jun Yong Park, and then we got Ponzinibbio versus Pereira. That should be the main event. But Holly Holm versus Ketlin Vieira, we could have put this fight on that card, but we didn't. And here we are. Cameron Van Camp, let's look at the competition that he's been fighting, because we know that Fialho has been fighting some decent competition here. But the names on Van Camp's resume are not bad, but they're not great either. Kenny Gaudreau, 10-7. Hauraz Cyan, 5-4. Eckelberg, 10-6. Dan Stitkin, former UFC fighter, 12-6. Lost to Bobby Volker, a former UFC fighter, 32-13. A win over Quentin Parks, 8-2. A no contest to Thomas Gifford, 15-7, a UFC fighter. Aaron Highbaugh, 6-0. Quentin Parks, 6-0. Lost to Austin Hubbard in the 3rd round. So he's, the guys that he's losing to are either UFC washouts or current UFC fighters. And he's beating some guys, Highbaugh, 6-0, Parks, 6-0, Stitkin, 12-6. He's got some decent wins here. So, and he's been around for a long time. He's the more experienced mixed martial artist. And he's got an extensive amateur career here where he's went 7-2 as an amateur, and he's been fighting since 2012. So this guy is no joke. And we look at the wins, he's got a knockout here, a triangle choke, a heel hick, punches, stoppage from strikes, triangle, rear naked, triangle, punches, rear naked. So this guy's a good grappler. He gets to people's backs, armbar. The submission against Sion, I don't remember what that one was, but I think it was a rear naked. And then the Darce choke against Kenny Gaudreau. The guy gets chokes. He's a strangulation expert, and he's live if he gets this fight to the ground or if he gets on Fialho's back. And we just haven't seen much of Fialho in the UFC, that is, face a lot of grappling attempts. He was taken down once in only 4 attempts in 2 fights. And he was controlled for 3.73% of the 19 minutes he was in the cage. So it was a negligible amount. So, yeah, it's hard to say, you guys. I mean, Fialho probably shouldn't be this big of a favorite because Van Camp is live. He's a good fighter. He's well-rounded. His striking isn't bad. And if Fialho just indiscriminately walks forward like a zombie, he might walk into a couple of reactive double legs here. And if he gives up his back trying to get to the feet, Cameron Van Camp might get on it and might submit him. I think it's closer than what the line is saying, but Fialho has really looked good and really impressed me. And he just seems to be getting better and better and better. He's training at Sanford MMA. He's only 28 years old. And it looks like he's just a scrapper, like he loves to fight. And I love the fact that he walks his opponents down. I think that's a great thing. I love seeing fighters pressure their opponents. It makes people uncomfortable. It makes them make mistakes they normally wouldn't make. So yeah, I am going with Andre Fialho. I think he will find Cameron Van Camp's chin here and knock him out. And I think as long as Fialho can keep this fight standing, that it's just a matter of time before he lands one of those hammers, because this guy's got crazy power. And we see here that in Fialho's 15 wins, he's finishing 80% by knockout. So that's 12 of 15 wins inside the distance by knockout. The guy swings absolute hammers. But in one of his losses, it was against on PFL, it was against Glyco Franca. This I'm talking about Fialho. Franca did a good job of wrestling him and grappling him and winning minutes that way. That's how we beat him. And Van Camp has that path, you guys. Don't just indiscriminately think that this guy is just some scrub that they just got up off the couch and he's not going to be able to come in here and push a type of game plan that might not make Fialho very comfortable. But still, with that being said, I do have to lean Fialho and say that he will find the chin at some point and knock this guy out. But I am not laying over minus 350 to do that. So Fialho, but with not nearly as much confidence as the line is suggesting. The next fight, wow. Marcos Rogerio de Lima squaring off against Blagoy Ivanov. This one's going to be fun, you guys. We've got de Lima, the underdog, at plus 120, Blagoy at minus 140. The fight doesn't go to decision, currently sitting at minus 155. So it's Ivanov, who's a year younger here, even though he looks like he's 50, he's actually the younger guy. De Lima's taller by 2 inches and is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. Blagoy is a southpaw. De Lima's an orthodox fighter. It's American Top Team for De Lima, and it's AKA American Kickboxing Academy for Ivanov. Straight out of Bulgaria for Ivanov, Brazil for Marcos Rogerio de Lima, but he's been training in the United States for quite a while now. We see de Lima's got the experience advantage here in number of fights, but it's Ivanov who's got about 70 more minutes in the pro cage, and that's because the average fight time for Ivanov is just under 10 minutes, while for de Lima it's under 6 minutes. And if you've seen de Lima fight, now he has had a couple of performances in the UFC where he fought against another kickboxer and figured, I'm going to take this guy down and win minutes on the ground and lay and pray down there. And he's done that twice against Adam Wieczorek and against Maurice Green. But when he doesn't feel confident that he's going to be able to take down his opponent, he comes out blasting like Yosemite Sam. It is so fun to watch. I think he is literally trying to kick off the bottom half of dude's legs. The inside leg kicks, the outside leg kicks. He looks like he's trying to send the bottom half of a leg flying out of the cage like a fucking field goal attempt. I am not joking. He throws wide hooks with bad intentions. And Blagoy Ivanov has got a fucking cinder block for a head, dude. You could hit this guy in the head with a 2x4 and it's just going to make him angry. He's been stabbed in the heart and lived. He got stabbed like fucking 20 times outside of a Bulgarian nightclub. One of the times he was stabbed, he was literally stabbed in the heart. They had to have, emergency surgery to save this guy's life. Of course, the doctor tells him, no, you're never going to fight again. But what does Blagoy Ivanov do? He comes back and books a 5-round main event with Junior Dos Santos and goes the full 5 rounds. This guy's durability and toughness are absolutely legendary. So you've got a guy in De Lima who comes out trying to kill people. And you got a guy in Ivanov who hits very hard and who appears that he can't be killed. So, yeah, a little bit of a minutes advantage here for Ivanov in the experience. A little bit of fights advantage for De Lima. De Lima is 2 inches taller and has that 2-inch reach advantage. But Ivanov's a southpaw. It's De Lima who's got 13 UFC level fights, while for Ivanov it's only 5. But even though Ivanov has 8 less fights than De Lima, he's got 20 more minutes of cage time. So, you know, De Lima's average fight time is less than 5 minutes in the UFC. The average fight time for Ivanov is 17 minutes because he's had one fight go 25 minutes and all the other 4 went 15. So De Lima, the better finisher here. He's got an 86 or an 84% finish rate in 19 wins, while for Ivanov, he's won 6 by submission, 6 by knockout, and 6 by decision. So he can win any way he wants to. Ivanov's been finished once in 4 losses, while De Lima's been finished in 6 of 7 losses. So Ivanov is just much more durable. When we look at the striking stats, De Lima lands 3.24 and only absorbs 1.21. He throws way more volume than his opponents. He's got great accuracy and really good defense and serious power, landing 5 knockdowns in 13 fights, landing knockdowns on 2.4% of the significant strikes that he lands, while Ivanov, much less accurate, he throws less volume than his opponents, while De Lima throws twice the volume of his opponents and not nearly as much power, just landing 1 knockdown in 5 fights, while De Lima has landed 5 in 13. But Blagoy has never been knocked down, and he's absorbed 353 significant strikes at the UFC level, and he's fought guys like Junior Dos Santos, Augusto Sakai, Ben Rothwell, Tai Tuivasa, and Derek Lewis. So, all right, so let's look at the strength of schedule. Ivanov, 1.89 ratio, 1.07 for De Lima. Much better in the total fights and the win-loss ratio. The average record of a guy that Ivanov fights has 10.2 wins and 5.4 losses, while De Lima's fighting about 500 fighters at about 4.54 wins and 4.23 losses. The wins much better for Ivanov here than De Lima. 1.89 ratio in Ivanov's wins, 1.09 for De Lima, and about 7 more total fights. And the loss is better. So look, Ivanov is going to be the better grappler here. He's going to be the guy that has fought the better brand of competition and beaten the better brand of competition. He's the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. But De Lima's way more explosive, and he's going to come out there trying to be the first guy to knock out Ivanov. And somebody's going to land something big, and then there's going to be trouble. The question is, can Blagoy Ivanov be killed? I mean, you can stab the guy 15 times, 1 time in the heart, and not only does he live, but he actually comes back to fight in the UFC and has fought 5 of the toughest names in the division and is going to split decision basically with all of them. I don't know if De Lima can kill him. And if he doesn't kill him in the first 2.5 or 3 minutes, I think he's going to be completely exhausted. And I think Ivanov's going to land a big shot and finish the fight. I also believe that if Ivanov is very uncomfortable on the feet, he can get this fight to the ground and potentially get a submission down there or finish the fight via ground and pound once he gets the fight to the ground. He's the far superior grappler. He is a world Sambo champion, if I'm not mistaken. He is very, very legit. And like I say, I think it's going to be the durability that makes the difference here. I'm going to be picking Blagoy Ivanov to win this one by 2nd round knockout. But boy, I love the fight doesn't go to decision here, because Marcos Rogerio de Lima really only goes to decision when he can win minutes in the grappling. And that's not going to happen against Ivanov. So if he can't win minutes in the grappling, I really believe that de Lima is going to have to go out there like Yosemite Sam, blast in with both guns, just trying to get this guy out of there. And he's very good at doing it. He just did it to Ben Rothwell, and Ben Rothwell has been one of the most durable guys that the UFC has seen in the heavyweight division for a very long time. So if he can do it to Rothwell, I think he can potentially do it to Ivanov here. But I still have to pick Ivanov. I feel like he's the more well-rounded guy. I feel like he's the more durable guy. I think he's the natural heavyweight with the better conditioning, and the durability to me makes all the difference in the world. I've got to go Blagoy Ivanov by 2nd round knockout, you guys. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in it. Damn, homie, against Rothwell, you was the man, homie. Yeah, I know. That Rothwell fight was nasty. He absolutely destroyed him. Joe Trader saying nobody breaks down sorry, this just went nobody breaks down fights like Weezy. I wish the journalists on MMA Fighting or MMA Junkie took the time to do this. Yeah, don't fucking count on it. Those guys don't work nearly as hard as I do. They're fucking, that's why they're in the media. So they can teach other people how to think instead of actually doing the work and doing the research to actually give somebody a product that has some kind of work and passion behind it. That's me, not them. Just my 2 cents. Dude couldn't even finish Mo Green. He's definitely not finishing Blagoy. Nick Lee saying, what's up, Uncle Weezy? What do you think of the D-Gen parlay? Tony Ferguson money line and over 1.5 Thug Rose and Charles money line and over 1.5. I like it, dude. Although Tony Ferguson's money line, I don't think you need to parlay that, dude. You can just bet it straight up. It's already at plus 300. And we got my guy Spud saying over, yeah. And you got that right. It's truth. Yep, that's right. Hey, you guys are the best, man. Let's keep it going, though. We're already an hour into the show. I think we're about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so less than halfway in, but we got 15 fights to break down. Brandon Royval versus Matt Schnell. All right, so Brandon Royval, big favorite at minus 250. Matt Schnell plus 210. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 170. So it's Royval who's 3 years younger, an inch taller, but Schnell's going to have the 2-inch reach advantage here. It's Royval who's the southpaw fighting out of Factory X. Matt Schnell trains all over the place. I don't even know where he is at right now, but he's been at ATT in the past. He's been at AKA in the past. He's really been all over the place. I think he's trained in Arizona as well. Very close in the pro experience here. 2 more fights for Schnell. Almost identical amount of time in the cage. Almost identical length of pro career. It's just Schnell who's fought a higher percentage of his career at the UFC level. And he's got about almost 40 more minutes in the UFC cage. Royval, definitely a killer-be-killed fighter with an 85% finish rate in his 13 wins, while a 66% finish rate for Schnell in his 15 wins. And Schnell has been finished in 4 of 6 losses, and Royval has been finished in 2 of 6 losses. So Royval has been a lot more durable on the whole, but he's been finished in both of his UFC losses, and Matt Schnell's been finished in 3 of 4 UFC losses. So if we just look at the UFC, we're talking about 5 of these guys' 6 losses coming inside the distance. So this could potentially be a good fight doesn't go to decision spot, especially if Brandon Royval comes out like the old Brandon Royval and just comes out there swinging hammers and bringing chaos, which is, I think, what he does really well. See, we'll look at the striking numbers here for these guys. We see Royval lands 3.16, absorbs 2.57, 37% accuracy. He's showing some power here. He's landed 2 knockdowns in 5 fights, while Matt Schnell has never landed a knockdown in 9 UFC fights. Schnell's been knocked down twice in 9 UFC fights, and Royval's been knocked down once in 5 UFC fights. Royval's striking defense, not nearly as good as Schnell's. Both of these guys' accuracy, nothing to write home about. It's Royval who's thrown a lot more volume than his opponents, though, you guys. 8.5 significant strikes per minute thrown, only 5 thrown by his opponents. So you got to like that volume that Royval brings, the diversity that he brings, the chaos that he brings, spinning stuff, big head kicks, big low kicks, elbows, knees. He brings it all. Matt Schnell kind of stands behind his jab and likes to work at boxing range. And we can prove that because Schnell has only attempted 6 takedowns in 9 UFC fights, and he's only gotten 2 of them. And on those 2 takedowns, he's managed 1.08% control time force. So this guy's not trying to get the fight to the fence, and he's not trying to get the fight to the ground. And even when he does, he's not successful keeping it there. So Schnell, you can tell by the 1% control time before that this guy wants to box. That's where he's most comfortable. 88% of his UFC career is taking place in the center of the cage at striking distance. Brandon Royval has only attempted 2 takedowns in 5 fights. He's gotten both of them. He does go fish for a lot of submissions on the ground, and he's getting out-controlled at better than a 3-to-1 ratio. But then again, his opponents are attempting 14 takedowns for every one that Brandon tries. So when I look at the stats here and when I look at the tape of these guys, I'm coming to the conclusion this is going to be a stand-up fight. Schnell doesn't try to get takedowns. Royval really doesn't try to get takedowns. Royval's gotten some control time, but, his fights are taking place in control time positions 60% of the time, and less than 25% of that time, Royval's on top or in control. So he's giving up a lot of minutes on the ground, but that really doesn't matter against Schnell because I don't think this fight's going to get to the ground unless Royval tries to get it there. So who's going to win minutes on the feet? Well, I don't think that Schnell really I don't think he thrives in chaos like Royval does. And Royval brings a lot of power and Schnell doesn't. So I think that Schnell is going to be very uncomfortable on the feet in this fight. And he's going to have a really hard time staying heavy on that lead leg and jabbing up Royval from the outside because Royval's, he's taller than Matt is. It shows Matt having the reach advantage, but we know how long Royval fights. This is going to be one of the few times that he's fighting somebody his own size. So, but I think it's the pressure and the chaos that Royval brings that's going to make the difference here. And we see that Royval fighting the slightly better brand of competition here and beating the slightly better brand of competition and losing the better brand of competition. So I think Royval's more powerful, more dynamic. He's just as experienced. He's fought the better brand of competition and beaten the better brand of competition. He's 3 years younger, and frankly, he's a little bit hotter right now than Matt Schnell. Schnell lost that using unanimous decision to Bontarine, got that split decision win over Nam, and then, lost to Pantoja, win over Espinoza, win over Smoka. But you see the win over Tim Elliott, win over Kai Kara France, lost to the former champion Moreno, lost by sub to Pantoja, and then a win over Bontarine. I think that Royval, there's a reason he's a favorite here. I think that he's the better grappler, and I think that he's the more dynamic striker who's going to throw more volume here. I think that he should be better everywhere. Love the fact that he's fought and beaten the better brand of competition as well. So I got to go with Brandon Royval, and I think that the chaos that he brings is either going to that's going to lend itself to this fight finishing inside the distance. Like I say, 6 combined fights for these guys in the UFC where they've lost. 5 of them have been inside the distance. So I think it's a sneaky little spot to go fight doesn't go to decision here. Usually for these flyweight fights, they only finish about 43% of the time. But I see this one finishing like 6 out of 10 times. So, pick is going to be Brandon Royval inside the distance. And I think that, the fight doesn't go to decision is a really good bet here. And the next one, we've got Justin Bieber going up against Norma Dumont. And let me get the banners here. So we got Bieber here at plus 185, Norma Dumont at minus 220, and the fight doesn't go to decision. Big time plus money here at plus 180. All right. So in the tail of the tape, we've got Norma Dumont 1 year older. It's going to be Macy, who's 4 inches taller and has a 5-inch reach advantage. She's got one more professional fight. They have the same amount of time in the cage, and Norma Dumont's been doing this a year longer. It's Macy, though, who's fought almost all of her career at the UFC level and has 10 more minutes and about 3 more fights at the UFC level here. It's Chiasson, who's finishing 58% of her pro wins and 3 of her 5 UFC wins inside the distance. Norma Dumont has 2 wins by submission and 5 by decision in her career. Norma's been knocked out in her only loss, and Macy has been subbed in 1 of 2 losses. The other loss was by decision. If we look at the UFC stats, both of these ladies are landing way more significant strikes per minute than they absorb. 4.04 landed, 2.56 absorbed for Chiasson, and she's throwing way more volume too, as she throws 8.66, and her opponents are only throwing 4.71. We've got 2 knockdowns in 7 fights for Chiasson, and she's never been knocked down. but a 45.5% striking defense leaves a lot to be desired. Norma Dumont landing 3.96, absorbing only 2.2, a little more accurate, almost as powerful, and way more defensively responsible. 68% striking defense, and she's been knocked down once in 4 UFC fights. So if we look at the grappling numbers here, we see that Norma controls her opponents about as much as her opponents control her, but Norma's showing 100% takedown defense thus far. She's been controlled for 18% of her 58 minutes in the cage. So I would say that that's about 11 minutes that she has been controlled out of 58, but that's all on the cage. Her opponents have been unable to take her down. I think that Felicia Spencer did get her down, but I don't think they even credited it as a takedown. I think she might have gotten her back standing or something like that. But other than that, she's been very good at keeping the fight where she wants it, which is in the center of the cage at striking distance so she can use her Muay Thai. Macy has attempted 3 takedowns per fight. She's only gotten 5 in 7 fights, getting her takedowns at less than a 25% clip, averaging just over 1 per 15 minutes. And she's out-controlling her opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio, despite the fact that she's got as many takedowns as she has yielded. So she's gotten 5 takedowns, she's yielded 5 takedowns, but she's out-controlling her opponents 41.3% to 22.3%. So Macy's been very efficient in control time positions, and she's not just capable of winning minutes on the ground. She is capable of winning minutes up against the fence as well, and I think that might be where she's going to do her best work here. When we look at the strength of schedule stats, we're going to see that Macy is doing a little bit worse here on ratio, but is fighting the more experienced competition. But when we look at the wins, Macy's only beating losing competition with 3 wins and 3.8 losses, 0.79 win-to-loss ratio, while Norma's beating winning competition with a 3.33 wins and 2.67 losses for a 1.25 win-to-loss ratio here. And then we see Macy losing to the better competition here. She's losing the winning competition with 11.5 total fights. Norma lost to losing competition with a 2-3 record. So that loss was to Megan Anderson. And then the wins were against Ashley Evans-Smith, Felicia Spencer by split, and then Aspen Ladd. So I think that this is going to be a very close fight. I think, I was saying on Stat Diggers that I think Macy kind of gets disrespected quite a bit by the bookmakers. I don't understand why she's this big of an underdog. She's sitting here at an implied probability of, like just about 35% here. And I think she can win this fight about half the time. She's bigger. She's longer. She's taller. And she does really well in the clinch. She can muscle up her opponents there. And I think that she's not necessarily going to be trying to take Norma down, but I think she can win minutes in the center of the cage. And I think she can win minutes on the cage. I think that Norma first of all, I love the fight goes to decision here at minus 220. I think it's a decent parlay piece. This one should absolutely go to decision. When we look at, in terms of, we might as well look at the prop template here, right? We've got it. So we see that 8 of these 17 fights have finished inside the distance for Dumont and Chiasson. That's 47%. Only 35% of UFC fights at 135 pounds are finishing inside the distance. I know it's at 145, but we don't really have any data for 145. So it looks like we're getting, a little bit of value there. Earlier in the week, the fight doesn't go, or the fight goes, was still sitting at minus 210. And we're still, that's showing fairly priced, despite the fact that, 5 of 11 of these fights have finished inside the distance. It's against lower level competition, and I think that this one goes the full 3. But look, it's going to be a very close fight. I might be considering a small sprinkle on Macy Chiasson at about plus 180 here. Just like I thought that, Ariane Carnelossi is very live at plus 150 earlier in the card. I think Godinez does win that by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if Carnelossi made it close enough and kept the fight standing long enough to make it very greasy. And I think that Macy Chiasson can win a lot of minutes on the cage here. And if she does, you're going to be very unhappy that you're holding a minus 250 ticket here for Norma Dumont to win this fight. So I think if you're going to bet Dumont, better to win by decision. She's not finishing women at this level. And Chiasson is a very tough out, and Chiasson can stay safe on the cage and dirty box and win minutes there. So Chiasson by decision, I think, is a good look this week. Dumont by decision is the way to bet her so that you don't have to pay all the way up to minus 250. And I think that this fight does go to decision. But the pick's going to be Norma Dumont. But I think that, at the current line, a money line bet on Chiasson, or even better, Chiasson by decision, which is sitting at plus 325 on Bet Online, is a very good look. You only have to throw down a quarter of a unit to win like 0.8 units. It's not bad. And like I say, I think she can win a lot of minutes on the cage here and make this very, very greasy. And like I say, so if it does go to decision and she makes it that kind of a fight, it's not going to feel good holding that Dumont ticket while you're waiting for Saul D'Amato to potentially put it in you. So anyway, the pick is going to be Norma Dumont, you guys, but I am going to say it's going to be very close and that I might be putting money on Chiasson this week. The next fight, Trinaldo against Danny Roberts. We got a good-looking man against a very shop-worn, ugly man here. But old against not so old. 43 years old for Francisco Trinaldo. Danny Roberts, 34. Danny Roberts, the much bigger guy here, 4 inches taller, 4-inch reach advantage. This is going to be a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, which is very interesting. But it's going to be Trinaldo with the experience advantage. 200 more minutes in the pro cage, 4.5 more years as a pro, 13 more UFC fights, 200 more minutes in the UFC cage. So he's much more experienced, but it's Danny Roberts who's the natural welterweight, while Trinaldo's moving up from 155 down, now to 170. So he's definitely a very small welterweight here. Trinaldo does figure out ways to close the distance, but it takes him a minute to figure out how to do it. Trinaldo finishing fights at a 52% clip, a 41% clip in the UFC, and Danny Roberts at a 72% clip as a pro, and he's finished 57% of his 7 UFC wins inside the distance. Danny Roberts has been finishing all 5 of his losses, all 4 of his UFC losses. Trinaldo been finishing 2 of 7 UFC losses and 3 of 8 pro losses. He's never been knocked out, only submitted. And Danny Roberts does have 1 UFC win by submission, and he does have a couple wins by submission as a pro, as many as, I think, 5. When we look at the striking numbers, Trinaldo lands about 0.4 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs. He throws a little more volume than his opponents. 43% striking accuracy. He's landed 5 knockdowns in 889 significant strikes, and he has absorbed 4 knockdowns. Danny Roberts lands a little more than he absorbs, 3.27 landed, 3.04 absorbed. Same striking accuracy as Trinaldo, a little more power as he's landed 3 knockdowns in 11 fights, 0.46 knockdowns for 15 minutes compared to 0.26 for Trinaldo. But he's also been knocked down 4 times in 11 fights. So he's absorbing a knockdown on 1.34% of the significant strikes that he has landed on him. Danny Roberts hasn't been successful getting fights to the ground, and he has not been successful keeping his opponents from taking him down. So 11% takedown accuracy and 56% takedown defense is not very good. But Roberts really doesn't attempt many takedowns, about 1.5 takedown attempts per fight, while Trinaldo attempts about 2 takedowns per fight, but he gets them at a much better clip, 44% as opposed to 11, and he's getting more than 3 times as many takedowns for 15 minutes as Danny Roberts does. So he'll probably be the guy that's more likely to win minutes, and he's been efficient on the ground. He's yielded 9 more takedowns than he's gotten, but he's still out-controlling his opponents 18.9% to 18.3%. So He's good at getting up, and he's good at staying in top position when he does get the takedown. So I think Trinaldo will probably be the guy that's more likely to win minutes on the ground here. But it's going to be tricky for him to try to close this distance. But the good thing about Trinaldo is that he does have a good chin. So because of that, you know, he can kind of take one to give one. And I think that he's going to do that. Now, when we look at strength of schedule here, it's all Trinaldo. He's fought the better brand of competition, beaten the better brand of competition, and lost to the better brand of competition. And when we see the kind of guys that Danny Roberts is beating, 1.14 UFC wins, 1.86 UFC losses, only 3 total fights, and a 0.62 win-to-loss ratio. So when we just go and we take a little bit closer look, you guys, at the advanced stats here. And by the way, as always, you can download these stats for free in the description of the video. Use them to help you make better gambling decisions. But let's go down to this fight here. Trinaldo's going to be down there a ways, so let me find that. Lauzon, Brown, Williams, Chiasson, Dumont, Royval, Schnell. Oh boy, it's way down here. There's Trinaldo. So you look at the guys Trinaldo's losing to: Salikov 5-1, Alexander Hernandez 5-4, James Vick 9-5, Kevin Lee 11-7, Chiesa, Piotr Hallman, and Gleison Tebow. Now look at the wins here. Nathan Coy 1-2, Dominique Steele 1-4, Bobby Nash 0-3, Oliver Enkamp 0-2, David Zawada 1-4, Zalim Imadaev 0-3, and then a very controversial split decision win over Ramazan Emeev. If it weren't for the Emeev one, he would in his 6 UFC wins, he would have never beaten somebody that had more than 1 UFC win. And Trinaldo's got like 11. So I just think that, you know, these are the kind of guys that beat Danny Roberts, Michel Pereira, Claudio Silva, Nordine Taleb, Mike Perry. These are Trinaldo types. So, you know, I guess it just depends. Do you want to roll with the 43-year-old man who's probably the better fighter everywhere than Roberts, who's beaten better competition than him, who's fought better, you know, competition, who's been around longer, who's more well-rounded, and who has more ways to win fights? Or are you just going with a guy like Roberts, who's a little more explosive, who's going to be the bigger guy? He's going to be the more natural welterweight here, and he's almost 10 years younger. So there's reasons to like both of these guys. Now, when we look at the line and we see that this is a pick'em, you got to believe that Trinaldo's the better fighter. I mean, normally you would have to pay up -150 just to get a guy that's 10 years younger when they're fighting a 43-year-old, unless that guy is just not nearly as good of a fighter as the 43-year-old. So I think this line tells us all we need to know. This is probably going to be a close fight, but it's probably going to be Francisco Trinaldo. He's more durable. He's more well-rounded. He's more experienced, and he's fought and beaten the better brand of competition. So I'm going to go with Francisco Trinaldo winning this fight by 3rd round knockout, but with very little confidence. I think fight doesn't go to decision here at +120 is actually kind of cheeky because Roberts has been finished in all 5 of his losses, and Francisco Trinaldo's 43 years old. So there's always the chance that if he doesn't like the way it's going, he might just look for the door. And Roberts is explosive enough to land a big shot to make him think about, maybe I will just look for that door. But all that being said, I'm going to go with Francisco Trinaldo by late knockout. All right, let's move on. Khaos Williams versus Randy Rude Boy Brown. This is an absolute banger. I did a balls deep breakdown on this fight on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. So if you want a more nuanced look into this fight, a more in-depth look, click on the link in the description of this video after just the tip, of course. 75 of you guys rocking live with us right now. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for hanging out late on a Tuesday night, and we'll try to get through the rest of this as fast as possible. Brown Williams, I'm going to skim over this one because we already did the balls deep breakdown, and you can look at the at that video if you want a more in-depth breakdown, you guys. Randy Brown, the bigger dude here, 3 inches taller, 1 inch of reach. Khaos Williams is younger. The experience numbers are pretty similar, but it's Brown who has a little more pro experience. 3 more years as a pro, 7 more UFC fights, and about 75 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Brown's bigger and he's more experienced. But Khaos Williams is younger, and he's both of these guys are good finishers, but it's actually Randy Brown who's finishing at a better rate. 79% of his 14 wins coming inside the distance. So that is 11 of 14 wins, 5 by knockout, 4 by submission for Randy Brown, while Khaos Williams relies on the knockout to get people out of there. He's won 62% of his pro wins inside the distance. Most of them by knockout, one of them by submission. Khaos Williams is very durable. He's never been finished in 15 fights, while Randy Brown has been finished 3 times in 4 losses, twice by knockout, once by submission. Brown lands 1.1 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, and he throws 2.2 more significant strikes attempts per minute than his opponents do. Khaos Williams is landing about 1.6 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, and he throws about twice the volume that his opponents do, as he's throwing 13 significant strike attempts per minute, and his opponents are only throwing 6.72. Khaos has never been knocked down, and he's landed 3 knockdowns in only 5 UFC fights. So what I think that this fight comes down to is, frankly, plain and simple, it's going to be durability. Randy Brown, very susceptible to low kicks, been finished in 3 of 4 fights, and Khaos Williams hits like an absolute truck. And then you could say, okay, well, so does Randy Brown. Randy Brown's got a ton of power, and when he puts his hands together and really lets them go, he's very, very dangerous. The 3rd round of the Barberena fight was just a masterclass of distance striking for Randy Brown. But look at the power that Khaos Williams has been in there in the UFC thus far in only 5 fights. Alex Morono's the debut. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, Michel Pereira, Matt Semmelsberger, and Miguel Baeza. Each one of these guys, with the exception of Morono, are guys that are landing a knockdown on more than 1% of the significant strikes that they land. So Khaos and Randy Brown both have great power, but only one of these guys has great durability, and that's Khaos Williams. And Khaos is not just the kind of power puncher who waits for that one big punch. Khaos has the ability to go first, and Khaos has the ability to not just counter, but counter in combination. Khaos goes to that low leg quite a bit, and we've seen him get his own low leg chewed up. But Randy Brown's got those neuro-ass legs that are just begging to be kicked. And we've seen him not do a great job of checking those kicks and stopping them. So I think Khaos Williams' durability, the low leg kicks, the ability to be able to throw counters in combination and be first here, I think it's going to give Randy Brown a lot of problems. Where I think Randy Brown could win minutes is in the wrestling, but we haven't seen him do that. 12 fights in the UFC for Randy Brown, only 16 takedown attempts, only 7 completed takedowns, less than 1 takedown completed per 15 minutes, and 23% control time for, 27% control time against. So he's been fairly efficient in the grappling exchanges, only being outcontrolled by a little bit, despite the fact that his opponents are landing about 1.5 takedowns for every one that Randy lands. I just don't see the commitment to the wrestling for Randy Brown in order to think that he's going to be able to win enough minutes on the feet, on the ground, in order to nullify what Khaos is doing on the feet. And then if we look at the strength of schedule, it's also Khaos Williams, 2.45 ratio to 1.57. A little more experienced competition for Randy Brown. The wins better for Khaos Williams, 2.56 ratio to 1.24, just as experienced a competition. The losses a little bit better for Randy Brown. You see Randy Brown in the last 5 having that spectacular 3rd round win over Brian Barberena, an early win over Warley Alves after Alves completely gassed out. Very close fight with Luque up until he got caught at the end of the 2nd round. Great one-armed rear naked choke sub by Alex Oliveira. And then the win by unanimous decision over Jared Gooden, where Jared Gooden had a lot of success kicking Randy Brown's legs in that fight. And Khaos just did a fantastic job against Miguel. Really just did a great job in all these fights. That Pereira fight could have went either way, but I think it was Pereira winning minutes in the grappling at the end of the second and the third rounds that wound up to get that decision. But I think you could have easily given Khaos Williams that fight as well. He could be 5-0 in the UFC. The durability is the key for me, you guys. And because of that durability, I'm picking Khaos Williams to win by second round knockout. Next fight, Cerrone versus Lauzon, a couple of absolute legends of the sport who have given so much to the sport. They deserve our respect. These guys are fantastic. 97 professional fights between the two of these guys. 39 years old for Cerrone, 37 for Lauzon. It's going to be Cerrone who's the bigger guy here, the more experienced guy, the more busy fighter, 10 more UFC fights. When we look at the strength of schedule here between Cerrone and Lauzon, I think what is the biggest deal here is you look at the ratio in the wins. The wins for Cerrone are so much better. Joe Lauzon, actually, when you add up the career records of everybody that he's beaten, these guys are below 500. You know, he's beating guys on average that have a losing record. Now, because he's got all these wins, we subtract out those losses. So Joe Lauzon's got 15 UFC wins. So we've subtracted out 15 losses from his opponents. So he's actually like 87 losses, and then there's going to be less wins because of the losses. So either way, Joe Lauzon is beating guys that have losing records. So first of all, for this particular fight, I like Cerrone to win the fight. I think he's the better striker. Cerrone's very competent grappler, and he only gets taken down 7 times. He's got 90% takedown defense, and he's only been controlled for 5.37% of his UFC career. Joe Lauzon really does depend on getting control time in order to win fights. He wins the majority of his UFC fights by submission, 47% by sub, 40% by knockout. But, you know, both of these guys are past their prime at this point. And, you know, it's kind of, I think what I said on Stat Diggers was this feels like the kind of fight that people are going to cap by saying which one of these guys is more washed. When I hear that, I don't want to get near the money line. I think Cerrone should win this fight. I really do think he's the much better mixed martial artist. But I thought he was going to beat Alex Morono, and he didn't even show up for that fight. Morono went through him like a hot knife through butter. It wasn't even close. It's the worst performance I've seen by Cerrone since the Conor McGregor fight. So, and then there's Lauzon. You know, I mean, this guy has not shown much lately. He got that freak win over Jonathan Pierce because Pierce got his arms stuck behind his head in a weird spot. Other than that, he's getting destroyed by Gritzenmacher, Guida, and Stevie Ray. He lost that fight to Marcin Held. I don't know how he got that decision. You go and look at the stats for that one. So it looks like Lauzon is more washed than Donald Cerrone. It looks like Lauzon has beaten the much lower brand of competition than Cerrone. I think that where Lauzon is at his best, Cerrone will be able to keep the fight standing where Cerrone's at his best. And I think Lauzon's going to come out like a fucking man possessed and try to win this fight right away. I don't think either one of these guys is feeling like I want to get paid, you know, by the hour on Saturday. I think they both like to get out of there with a quick win with very little damage and, you know, enjoy the money that they make. I think that this fight's going to finish inside the distance, you guys. I really do see this probably finishing in the first round because Cerrone's a very slow starter. So I think the best chance for Lauzon is to come out blasting like Yosemite Sam and try to get him out of there in the first 60 seconds and really just empty the tank. And if it doesn't work, then Cerrone will just choke him out, you know, later on in the fight, maybe late first round, early second round. But either way, the under 2.5 in this fight feels like a really safe bet. I don't think we're going to see either one of these guys at this point in their career willingly take place in a 15-minute war. And if these guys were to go the full 15 minutes, it's hard to picture it taking place any other way but being a knockdown, drag-out war. So as a result of that, I think that the most likely scenario is that the fight finishes inside the distance. I'm going to pick Donald Cerrone to win by second round knockout. but with very little confidence. Whichever guy you're taking here, if you do want to bet it, bet him inside the distance. Even Lauzon round 1 is probably the best way to go. Lauzon gets his opponents out of there early when he wins, and if he doesn't get him out of there early, we know that he gasses and can be finished late. So yeah, I'll pick Cerrone by second round knockout. I think he gets it done inside the distance, but I wouldn't get near either of these money lines. But I do think that the under 2.5 at minus 165 is a very good look. And we've got another fight here that's kind of like the same read, you guys. You know, which one of these guys is more washed? Because they're both legends. 40 pro fights for Mauricio Shogun Rua, 41 for St. Preux. St. Preux, 24 fights at the UFC level. Shogun, 22 fights at the UFC level. Great finish rates, 82% finish rate as a pro for Rua. Is an 80% finish rate in 25 wins for St. Preux. These guys are getting finished in their losses more times than they don't. 70% of Shogun's 10 UFC losses are inside the distance, and 6 of St. Preux's 11 UFC losses are inside the distance, and they're equally opportunity getting finished and finishing. Shogun really only knocks people out, but St. Preux can get you with the chokes or with the hands. And then St. Preux's been finished 3 times by submission and 3 times by knockout in the UFC, and twice by submission and 5 times by knockout for Shogun. So the first time that these guys fought some years back, St. Preux knocked him out in the first round. And because of that, we got St. Preux as a minus 230 favorite here. But, you know, he's just as old and just as shop-worn as Mauricio Shogun Rua here at this point. And the thing about Shogun is that I've stopped betting Shogun fights like 8 years ago because he frankly just doesn't show up sometimes. You could tell he just is showing up for a show check. He gets out of there immediately, and he's fine with that. He only really fights when he feels like fighting. So that's something that we don't have access to. We don't know whether Shogun is going to show up or not because he shows up about half the time. He reminds me, the best basketball reference that I could come up with Shogun Rua is he's like Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace, when he felt like playing, could be an absolute destroyer. He could go inside, outside, rebound, shoot 3-pointers, and just kill you from everywhere. But boy, he really only showed up once out of every 3 nights. The other nights, he wouldn't do a damn thing. And that's just Shogun Rua. He just doesn't seem to care sometimes. And then when you figure out after 3 of those performances in a row, wow, this dude is so washed, he doesn't give a shit. He'll go to war for three rounds with Paul Craig and come out with a draw. And you're like, how the fuck did he fight for 15 minutes? His last 3 fights haven't lasted 3 minutes. Well, that's why I don't bet on Shogun Rua fights. And I don't bet on Ovince St. Preux fights either, because you're kind of just asking yourself, is he going to land the big left hand? Because even though he's a good wrestler and he's got a very good top game, you can never count on him to shoot takedowns and get them. And it's usually when you think St. Preux does have the biggest grappling advantage, that's when you know for a fact that he's not shooting. There seems to be no process to Ovince St. Preux's game whatsoever. So which one is more washed? I don't know. Which one is worse fight IQ? I don't know. St. Preux's, I mean, you'd say that St. Preux has more power, but look at this. I mean, Shogun's landing a knockdown on 1.7% of the significant strikes that he's landed. He's landed 817 strikes. So that means, that he's landed 13 knockdowns in 22 fights. Now, St. Preux has landed about 5 knockdowns in 24 fights. So even though I would think that St. Preux would have the bigger power, the numbers actually show you that Shogun does. And both of these guys are getting knocked down on about 0.6% of the significant strikes that they absorb, and they're absorbing about 0.33 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Can't really count on either of these guys to grapple. St. Preux less than 1 takedown per fight. Shogun Hua barely over 1 takedown per fight. Piss poor takedown defense for both of these guys, but especially for Shogun. I mean, like, this could be a fight where St. Preux, if St. Preux decides to grapple, he can win minutes down there. But because there are winnable minutes on the ground, I have to guess that St. Preux will not take that because that would be too easy. I've never seen St. Preux fight a game plan that I figure would be the easiest one for him to win. Look, the strength of schedule is even the same here. It's the same. The experience numbers are the same. Look, the bet's Shogun Hua because he's plus money, because both of these guys are washed, completely washed. And to have more faith in Ovin St. Preux, who's 39, than Shogun Hua, who's 40, when both of these guys are incredibly shop worn and it doesn't look like either one of these guys cares anymore. If you made me bet on this fight, I would bet that Shogun Hua money line. But the fight doesn't go to decision, is a little bit juiced up at minus 230, and who knows if either of these guys are even going to have any urgency. So this is a complete stay away from me. I even though I don't care really about this fight, these guys have given so much to the sport. They definitely deserve our respect, and I'm glad to see them both making some money, on a pay-per-view card. Two legends of the sport. St. Preux probably should be the winner here, but this line really doesn't make any sense because I don't know where St. Preux is better. And if you say, oh, well, Weezy, his wrestling and his top game are better, well, great. That's like saying, my curveball is fantastic. And then you put some pads on me and you tell them, okay, well, you're playing football today. Well, what good is my curveball going to do on a football field? None. What good does wrestling do over in St. Preux when he shoots no takedowns? None. So I would say Shogun Hua. I think Shogun Hua at plus 195 is live because I just don't think, either one of these guys really gives a shit at this point. And it's probably a coin flip. So that's the way I'm going to go on this one. But I'm not getting my money anywhere near it. Next fight is going to be an absolute banger. Man, we've got Tony El Kukui Ferguson, probably my favorite fighter of all time, against Michael Chandler. It's Tony Ferguson, who's 2 years older, 3 inches taller, and a 5-inch reach advantage here. Ferguson with 2 more professional fights, 25 more minutes in the pro cage, and about a year and a half more as a professional mixed martial artist. Tony Ferguson's got 16 more fights at the UFC level and almost 200 more minutes in the UFC cage. But, obviously Michael Chandler is somebody who's been a champion in Bellator. So, this guy's fought top-level competition outside of the UFC. So, it's not like Ferguson's just, far and away fought the better brand of competition for his entire career. They've both been fantastic. And they've both been champions. Ferguson finishing at an 80% rate, 20 of 25 wins coming inside the distance. Michael Chandler finishing at a 77% rate of 22 wins. These guys don't get finished often. Tony Ferguson has been knocked out once in the UFC, and he's been finished in 2 of 6 pro losses as a whole. And Chandler's been finished in 1 of 2 UFC losses and in 4 of 7 pro losses. And Joe Trader says OSP might not make 205. That's very interesting because that's a good point. His last couple fights have been up at heavyweight, and who knows if he even wants to cut this weight anymore. If we look at the striking stats here, we kind of got to just lean on Ferguson's because we've only got a 3-fight sample size for Chandler. 5.15 landed, 3.78 absorbed. He throws about 2 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do, 45% striking accuracy. Looks like Tony's landed 3 knockdowns in 19 fights, while Michael Chandler has landed 1 knockdown in 3 fights. So much more knockdowns per 15 minutes for Chandler at this level. 59% striking defense for Ferguson. He's been knocked down 4 times in 19 fights. And Michael Chandler showing pitiful 36.75% striking defense. And he's been knocked down 3 times in 3 fights, absorbing almost 2 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So that's very interesting. Chandler's a big favorite here. But this is another line that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We know that Ferguson doesn't really wrestle, and neither does Chandler. I mean, Chandler is a wrestler, right? And Ferguson grew up wrestling as well. Both of these guys have wrestling backgrounds, but neither one of these guys is really doing it at this level. Ferguson, 14 takedown attempts in 19 fights, and he's only gotten 6 of them. 3.54% control time for. And before the Oliveira fight, the takedown defense was much better. It was up over 80%, I believe, for Ferguson. But since then, since the Oliveira fight and the Dariush fight, here, let's even just take a look at this, you guys. Take a look at Tony Ferguson's career takedown defense before those fights and after them, because it's very important to note how good he was at keeping fights standing prior to facing a couple of the best wrestlers in the world. So here we go. 6 of 9 were these guys. So 17 of 53. So if we take 17 minus 6, that's 11. And 53 minus 9, 53 minus 9 is 44. And 11. So yeah, he was 75% takedown defense before those 2 fights. 11 of 44. So he was really good at keeping fights standing. And even if you look at the control time that he's allowing to his opponents, in the Danny Castillo fight, he allows 569 seconds of control time. But other than that, he's really not getting controlled by his opponents. 289 seconds here by Kevin Lee, but he won that fight and knocked him out. So people have been successful winning some minutes on the ground against him. Kevin Lee, Danny Castillo, and then in particular, Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush. But if you throw out those fights, most of his fights are taking place at striking range. Tony Ferguson is incredibly durable. He gets better as the fight goes on. His conditioning and heart are unmatched. And Chandler is somebody that slows down as the fight goes on. And this is another one. Now, look, I lost money on Tony Ferguson against Charles Oliveira. And then I almost wanted to bet him against Dariush, but I just couldn't do it. I thought maybe he was washed. Did not bet on Dariush, though, and let that opportunity go by. And then, obviously the Gaethje fight was an absolute war. But I feel like the durability of Gaethje and the durability of Chandler are 2 different things, and that if he doesn't break El Cucuy early, that this is going to get very ugly as the fight goes on. This guy, Ferguson, has fought everybody. We know how tough he is. We know what he does well. And we know that Michael Chandler is no longer a lay and pray wrestler who's going to go D1 on Ferguson here and try to win minutes on the ground. I think he's going to try to knock out Ferguson, and I think that might be a mistake. I think this line is too wide. Tony Ferguson round 3 is plus 2,900, you guys, on FanDuel. I will be betting that for a quarter unit to try to win 7. Tony Ferguson, you guys, he gets a lot of 3rd round finishes. His conditioning is fantastic. His volume is fantastic. And his ability to take punishment is unmatched. This guy never quits. So unless the ref steps in to stop the fight, this fight isn't getting stopped because Tony's not tapping. We saw that in the Oliveira fight. And if you're going to need a brick to knock him out, and they don't let you bring that into the cage. So I think Ferguson's live here at plus money, you guys. I wouldn't be laying minus 400 on Michael Chandler here. And let's not forget that, people are like, oh, Ferguson's lost 3 in a row. He's washed. Well, 3 of these guys that he's lost to are the guys that Chandler's lost to. He lost to Gaethje and he lost to Oliveira. And, Oliveira finished Chandler just like, Oliveira actually finished Chandler and Oliveira couldn't finish Ferguson. And Gaethje was a decision, but if that fight went any longer, that was getting stopped. And Gaethje finished Ferguson in the 5th round, but only by referee stoppage. So I think Tony Ferguson's durability is going to play in huge here, and I think he's going to be live to win late in this fight. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to pick Michael Chandler to win by decision, but I'm probably going to be betting Tony Ferguson, and I'm going to be betting Tony Ferguson round 3. War El Kukui, one of my favorite fighters of all time, and I would be absolutely dancing around in my living room if he won this fight, if he got one more win for us. Such a fan of this guy. Love everything that he's given to the sport. Love everything that both of these guys have given to the sport. And it would be amazing to see Tony Ferguson come out of here with a win. I think Chandler's going to do it, but I think your Uncle Weezy's money is going to be putting a little bit on Tony Ferguson here and hoping for one last ride with my guy El Kukui. Co-main event is going to be for the strawweight title. Rose Namajunas, otherwise known as Thug Rose, squaring off against Carla Esparza. The very first strawweight title shot, the very first strawweight title fight in the UFC was between Thug Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza, I think all the way back in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And Carla Esparza won that one by third round submission. It's Carla who's 5 years older than Thug Rose. Thug going to be 4 inches taller and have a 2-inch reach advantage, so a nice tail of the tape advantage here for for Rose. Carla with a 9-fight experience advantage, 100 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 3 more years as a pro. And the UFC experience is very similar. 1 more fight for Esparza, 27 more minutes in the UFC cage. Thug Rose, the much better finisher here at 63% in comparison to 44% for Esparza. And Esparza has only finished 2 of her 9 UFC wins, while Thug Rose has finished 5 of her 9 UFC wins. Carla's been finishing 2 of 4 UFC losses, and Rose has been finishing 2 of 3 UFC losses. So 4 of these ladies' 7 combined losses have been inside the distance, and Carla Esparza has never been 5 rounds. So the fight doesn't go to decision is very intriguing for this fight. And I'll tell you why. Because this is kind of a striker versus grappler matchup. Even though Rose is very good on the ground, Carla wins minutes with her wrestling and top control, and Rose Namajunas wins minutes with her distance striking. But being a 5-round fight, I think it's very interesting because Carla is going to have to continue to push the wrestling pace. And that's going to get harder and harder to do as the fight goes on. So if she does not get Thug Rose out of there in the first 3 rounds, she might have a very hard time completing takedowns late in the fight. And if she can't get to those takedowns late in the fight, she might get very, very tired and be susceptible to being finished herself. So I could see this going either way, but fight doesn't go to decision at plus money for a 5-round fight when we've seen these ladies lose 7 combined times in the UFC, and 4 of them have been inside the distance, and most of these have been in 3-round fights. That I think that plus money on the fight doesn't go is something I'm going to be taking a very long look at. Now, the striking numbers. Rose lands about 0.1 more significant strikes a minute than she absorbs. She's landing at a 42% accuracy. 4 knockdowns in 12 fights is very good for this division, and she's never been knocked down, and she's showing striking defense just under 60%. She throws just as many strikes attempts per minute as her opponents, so you like that power, you like that volume of Rose, and you love the striking defense at 59%, very defensively responsible. Carla absorbs more significant strikes than she lands, about 0.4 more, and her opponents are throwing about a half more significant strike attempts per minute than she is. Carla's never landed a knockdown and never been knocked down. So I think we can even tell just from the stats there that it'll be Rose that's the minute winner on the feet. And then we look here, Carla Esparza, 113 takedown attempts in 13 fights. So that would be about 8 takedown attempts per fight, and she's getting them at a 37% clip, 42 takedowns in 13 fights. So she's averaging over 3 takedowns per fight and 3.53 takedowns per 15 minutes. She's getting 33% control time for and allowing 17.36% control time against. So she's out-controlling her opponents at about a 2-to-1 ratio. And she's out takedowning her opponents at a little bit better than a 2-to-1 ratio. Rose has got 4 more takedowns than her opponents, but she's out controlling her opponents 23.5% to 9.5%. So I would even say that Rose has been a little more efficient with the takedowns that she's gotten, and a little bit better at getting up when she does get taken down than Carla Esparza, because both of these ladies' takedown defense is around 50%. But it's clearly Esparza that's going to the offensive wrestling more. So when you see that 51% takedown defense for Rose, that's very concerning, because it's 51%, but she's not getting a lot of takedowns attempted against her. 12 UFC fights, only 29 takedown attempts. So she's seeing just over 2 takedown attempts against per fight. She's going to see a lot more than that against Carla Esparza. And we've seen in the past that she's not particularly great at winning minutes when she's getting grappled. All right. Strength of schedule. So I've got Rose as the better striker. I've got Carla as the better grappler. Rose is younger and has the serious tail of the tape advantage, being longer, younger, and taller. And the experience numbers are really very close. The strength of schedule. Rose's ratio a little bit worse than Carla's, but Rose's experience level of her opponents a little bit better than Carla's. When we look at the wins, Carla's better ratio, Rose's better experience. And then the losses are very similar, probably leaning Namajunas. So the strength of schedule is very similar. I guess it just depends on what you think is going to happen in the grappling exchanges. So let's take an even closer look, you guys, here and go to the advanced stats. Now, here's Carla Esparza. Here's all of her fights. In the losses against Tatiana Suarez, Claudia Gadelha, Randa Marcos, and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. 4 seconds of control time for, 215 seconds of control time for, but she was out-controlled here. Only 166 seconds of control time for here against Marcos, and 67 seconds of control time here against Joanna. And then look at all the other fights, like 400, 500, 400, 300, 300, 575, 300. She's only won 2 fights where she's gotten less than 100 seconds of control time. And that was against Michelle Waterson by split decision in a very close fight, and against Cynthia Calvillo by unanimous decision, getting out-controlled by about 240 seconds. So we know that when she's out-controlling her opponents at a good clip, she's winning. Easy win here, easy win here, easy win here, easy win here, a win here, win here, win here. So these 7 of these 9 wins, you know, she's getting a ton of control time and allowing not much control time. And then we look at Thug Rose, and we see 3 times where she's lost against Jessica Andrade, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and Carla Esparza. And in 2 of these 3 fights, she gets taken down 2 of 4 times and 5 of 7 times. And in the other fight, the Karolina Kowalkiewicz fight that she lost, there were no takedown attempts. But in these 3 losses, she's been taken down 7 times in only 11 attempts. There's only been 1 fight where she's been taken down more than once that she's won. And it was a split decision, very, very close fight against Zhang Weili. And Weili got 5 takedowns on 11 attempts. And Rose got 2 of 2 and won some minutes on the ground. But see, Rose out-controlled her 420 to 217 here. So it's going to be about Rose trying to keep this standing, not allowing the takedowns, not allowing the top control of Carla Esparza. But I'm very worried that she just hasn't seen enough takedown attempts in order to know how she's going to do in this situation. 11 takedown attempts in this fight, and it was very close. But other than that, in all of her wins, she's never seen more than 4 takedown attempts other than in that fight. So I think that this is going to be a different challenge for Rose here. She's going to have to stop a willing wrestler and do it for, 3 out of 5 rounds. She's going to need to keep this fight standing. And Carla's very good at getting her way on the ground, especially against somebody like Thug Rose, who has only successfully defended 15 of 29 takedown attempts in her career. And when she's getting taken down 5 times and 5 times here, she's given up a lot of minutes on the ground. So I think that this is going to be very close. I think this might be Carla's time. And I think that Carla is actually going to win this fight by decision. Carla Esparza right now is plus 173 on Bet Online. And the Carla Esparza by decision is sitting at plus 275 on DraftKings. Not bad. That might be something I'm taking a look at as well here. But I think that the wrestling of Carla is going to be something that's going to make it difficult for Rose to win a lot of minutes on the feet. And it's going to make it even more difficult for her to find the time and the timing to land the big shot on Carla that can get her out of there. I think that this is going to be a wrestling match early and often. And I think as the fight goes on, Rose is going to become less dangerous and have less ability to knock out Carla. I think Carla is going to continue to wrestle her and show a continuation on the skill set that we saw her bring in the Yan Xiaonan fight. I'm going with the underdog here and new Carla Esparza, the Cookie Monster, as the new Women's Strawweight Championship. We are 2 hours into Tuesday nights, just to tip you guys, and we come here to the main event. In the description of this video is a link to the main event deep dive that Brady and I did on the MMA Engine YouTube channel earlier this week. It's our most viewed video on that channel, over 2,000 views. We went 45 minutes deep into this particular fight. Charlie Alves versus Justin Gaethje. This could easily be the most exciting fight of the year. I absolutely can't wait for this one. Two guys that bring nothing but action, nothing but excitement. The blistering striking of Justin Gaethje against the top-notch submission grappling of Charlie Oliveira. I think Oliveira's striking is better than Gaethje's grappling, but we got to remember that loss for Gaethje came on Fight Island, and sometimes you see people give the flattest performance of their life when they have to go to Abu Dhabi to fight. So we could be seeing a better version of Justin Gaethje here, one that can keep this fight standing. And if he does, I think it's a matter of time before he chips out on Charles Oliveira here and works him over with those low leg kicks, with the big shots to the head, and eventually knocks him out. I think that this fight, if it goes to decision, it's going to be the most exciting fight maybe in the history of the UFC. But I don't think it's going to decision. I think this fight's going to finish inside the distance. These guys are amazing finishers. They both bring a serious pace that I don't think any human can push for 5 full rounds, especially against these types of opponents. So Oliveira, more experienced, you guys. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage. He's 1 year younger. He's got about 40 more minutes in the pro cage and about 3.5 more years as a pro, 20 more UFC level fights, and about 110 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys, crazy finishers. 91% finish rate for Charlie Olive, 63% by sub, 28% by knockout, 87% finish rate for Justin Gaethje, 83% by knockout, 4% by sub. Gaethje been finishing all 3 of his losses. Charlie Oliveira finished in 7 of 8 losses, 10 of 11 losses of these guys combined coming inside the distance. It's a 5-round fight. The fight doesn't go to decision. It's sitting around minus 500. It should be like minus 1,000. Oliveira lands about 0.3 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs. He's got about 6 knockdowns in 29 fights. Gaethje's got about 4 knockdowns in 9 fights, landing a knockdown, 0.65 knockdowns per 15 minutes, 0.44 for Oliveira. Both of these guys' striking defense is below 56%, but Gaethje's is better. Gaethje's been knocked down less than Oliveira, only 1 time in 9 fights, while for Oliveira, it's 3 times in 29 fights. So both of these guys getting knocked down less than 0.25 times for 15 minutes. Gaethje will never shoot a takedown in this fight. Charlie Oliveira will. 82 takedown attempts in almost 30 fights for Oliveira. He outcontrols his opponents 30% to 28%, and he's showing 57% takedown defense. Justin Gaethje done a pretty good job, 73% takedown defense, and he's only been controlled for 2% of his UFC career. If he can keep the number in this fight to a 2% control time allowed, he's got a really good chance to win this fight. But Oliveira might only need 10 or 15 seconds because he's that effective once he gets on your back at finishing the fight. and he can get submissions from his back. He can get them from the top. His transitions are unbelievable, and his scrambles are really good. He's just not a guy you want to be grappling with at all. And, we did see Khabib not shoot a lot on Justin, but once he did get the fight to the ground, I think he realized immediately that Justin had nothing for him down there. And Charlie says that he's going to stand and bang with Justin Gaethje. I don't particularly believe him. I think he wants to keep this. Strap. And if he does want to keep this strap, I think he's got to grapple here. But I don't think he's completely outmatched in the striking. That's the thing. He's going to have to watch that calf because you can only take so many of those calf kicks from Gaethje. He swings like trying to take the bottom half of your leg off. But Oliveira, can get in close here. And once he does, I think that he's going to have a good, easy time getting this fight to the ground, or at least getting on Justin's back. And even if he can't get the fight to the ground, even if he can't get on his back, I seriously think Charles can just pull guard, roll for a leg lock, sweep, get on top, and then do work. So I think there's more than one way to skin a cat here for Charlie Oliveira. I think if he doesn't like how it's going on the feet, he doesn't necessarily need to get a takedown to get the fight to the ground. And if that's the case, and if Charlie's showing that newfound durability, I think he's going to win this fight. In the strength of schedule, Justin Gaethje, a little bit better here. 2.14 ratio to Charlie Oliveira, 1.63. Total fights very much the same. The wins, better for Gaethje. 0.15 better in the ratio and about 5 more total fights. And the losses better for Gaethje. So Gaethje is going to be the better striker. He's got the better strength of schedule. But it's going to be Oliveira who's got a 4-inch reach advantage, who's more experienced, who's got more UFC experience, and who's way, way, way better at grappling. You got to beat the champ in order to be the champ. So if this winds up being close and it does go to decision, I think that Oliveira might be the better minute winner simply just because of his ability to grapple and his ability to be able to keep it close on the feet. But that's not to say that Justin Gaethje, he can absolutely win minutes on the fight or on the feet in this fight. That is his best path. And if he keeps this fight standing and is successful not letting Charlie initiate the grappling, that he should be the minute winner when this is on the feet. Very close fight. I'm leaning Charles Oliveira. I'll be using the fight doesn't go to decision as a parlay piece here. Wow, you guys, we did it. We broke down 15 fights and it took only a little over 2 hours. I know I had a lot to say, but it's late Tuesday night and this card deserves my full attention, and you guys deserve to get the most nuanced breakdowns possible of all these fights. I hope you guys think I did well tonight, but after we've broken down 15 fights, we got only one order of business left, and that's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. So we've got, but first, before we get into that, interesting bets. These are some bets that I was just looking at prior to the show that I kind of like. Cortez by decision at plus 125. Ivanov de Lima fight doesn't go to decision at minus 155. Royval Schnell fight doesn't go to decision at minus 170. I think that's a little expensive, but I think it hits. El Kukui round 3 plus 2,900 on FanDuel. I like that. The Ferguson Chandler over 1.5 at minus 165, I think is a decent look. And the Cowboy Lauzon under 2.5 at minus 165. These are all bets that I think I might be making. I think that there's some value in a lot of those spots. And then on Thursday on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, when Lou Betya and I go live for Probability, we're going to be taking a much longer look at all the over-unders and fight goes and fight doesn't go for this card and see what we can find there. But those are some of the early looks for some of the lines that I'm going to be betting this week. But you guys, we got Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week here. So who do you guys think I should go with? Now, I'm going to do something completely ill-advised here today, you guys. So I'm a little bit flustered. Philly did not get the job done. We had 11 consecutive ass shavings of the week go right for us. The 12th one was not the charm. But now this is number 13, and number 13 has got to be the charm. In order to do number 13, sometimes we have to look Unlucky right in the face, make eye contact with Unlucky and say, you're not doing it to me again this time. And I've got a read that I like this time. And it's not going to be a popular read, you guys. It's not going to be popular at all, I think. But I'm going to give you a bet for the ass shaving of the week that doesn't necessarily reflect what I think is going to be an ass shaving here. I think it's going to be a win. And I'm going to give you a plus money bet because I like the read on this one. So it's going to be plus money. And we're going to give you a chance to get a bet this week that doesn't necessarily reflect an ass shaving, but will reflect an ass shaving of the bookies at plus money if my read is correct. Unfortunately, it's on women's MMA, you guys, and it seems that the more confident I am about my reads on women's MMA, the faster those reads fall apart like a Chinese motorcycle once the fight starts. But you know, my reads are usually pretty good on men's fights, at least. So I'm going to say that I don't care it's a women's fight. You know, I don't care that I've been wrong in the past about women's MMA. I don't care that women have burned me on the ass shaving of the week because I like this read. I like betting on wrestlers. And I'm going with Tracy Cortez by decision this week over the public dog of the week in Melissa Gatto. Tracy Cortez's wrestling will determine where this fight takes place. If Tracy's more comfortable on the feet, it's going to stay on the feet. If Tracy's more comfortable on the cage, it's going to stay on the cage. If Tracy was more comfortable with Melissa's back on the mat, that's where the fight is going to take place. I really believe that Melissa Gatto is only live to win this fight by submission. And we've never seen Tracy Cortez submitted in the UFC. We couldn't get a submission out of Erin Blanchfield. We couldn't get a submission out of Stephanie Egger. We saw Tracy Cortez actually win a lot of striking exchanges with Justine Kish on the feet, who just beat Alima Leigh McFarlane. Tracy Cortez by decision is plus 130. She's not going to go out there and finish Melissa Gatto. That's why this is an odd ass shaving of the week. But I think the ass shaving is going to look like, remember the Erin Blanchfield versus Miranda Maverick fight? Do you remember how dominant Erin Blanchfield was with her wrestling and with her top control? I think that that's what this fight is going to look like. I think Tracy's going to take this girl down, put her head up against the cage, beat the shit out of her for the full 15 minutes. And I think Melissa's going to be trying to throw up subs, but she's going to lose every scramble. She's going to not be able to lock up those submissions, and she's going to be wearing Tracy's weight for the entire 15 minutes. And Tracy Cortez is going to make this look easy. And I'm coming out of my 1 week ass shaving of the week slump with a plus money bet for us to get that money back from the bookies that we lost on Philly last week. And we're putting it on Tracy Cortez by decision plus 130. Unanimous decision, John Smith. And Lou Bet saying Weezy fading MMA Twitter, and I'm here for it. I think that maybe you're going to see a lot more people come out on Cortez as the week goes on. But I do know that a lot of people are on Gatto this week, and I understand. The striking looks much improved. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is excellent. She gets submissions from her back. But I don't think that people understand how good Tracy Cortez's wrestling is for this division. And I think if she makes weight comfortably, she's going to make this look easy on Saturday, you guys. You guys, 2 hours and 15 minutes almost of work that we did tonight. But we got to put in the work if we're going to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on these bookies for UFC 274 on Saturday. My God, almost 100 of you guys were hanging out here at the peak. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you haven't hit that like button, please do that. If you haven't hit the subscribe button for the Uncle Weezy channel, please do that. And if you haven't hit the subscribe channel for the MMA Engine YouTube channel, what are you guys waiting for? We got a ton of great content over there. We're going to be doing probability this Thursday at 7:15 Central Time. We'll be bringing out this prop template, and we'll be going through the divisional finish rates for all of the divisions. the finish rates for the fighters overall and in the UFC, and how those lines of the implied probabilities and the finish rates compare to each other. And we're going to find value and find some more over under and fight goes and fight doesn't go bets that are going to cash this week, so we can make even more money off of these bookies. Guys, get over there, subscribe to that MMA Engine YouTube channel. One last thing, want to wish a very happy wedding to my guy DFS by the Numbers, who's getting married, I think, in 2 days. He's out of town, taking the week off, but he'll be back next week because he's one of the hardest working dudes that I've ever met in my life. I'd like to wish him and his fiance and to-be soon wife a lifetime of happiness and healthy years together. And thank each and every one of you guys for spending your Tuesday night with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, here on Just a Tip. I'll be back tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio doing the DFS show with Lou Betya and Monk Maddox. And I'll be back tomorrow night on Uncle Weezy's channel with another version of Ask Weezy. So you can ask me any questions that you have about this particular card. We could take a look at we could take a sneak peek at the prop template, and we could just bust out the database and ask any questions that you guys have. We did it. 2 hours, 15 minutes, just the tip. Another one in the can, you guys. This is one of the best cards of the year. Gaethje against Ferguson. I'm sorry, Gaethje. we got Tony Ferguson against Michael Chandler. We got the strawweight championship, Namajunas against Esparza. We got the lightweight championship, Gaethje against Oliveira. Going to be an amazing card, you guys. Can't wait to watch it. Thank you guys for hanging out on a Tuesday night on Just the Tip. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 274, and God bless each and every one of you guys. Good night.